Forget Cena, The Rock, Triple H, and even Hulk Hogan, because there's only one name that stands tall amidst the shattered glass: Stone Cold Steve Austin. No one, I repeat, no one has ever reached the levels of popularity that Stone Cold did. He drew the biggest crowds, made the most money, and nobody has been able to recreate the hype he brought to the WWF product. From beer-soaked celebrations to unforgettable catchphrases, Stone Cold gave Vince McMahon more sleepless nights than a haunted house tour. This is why Stone Cold is the GOAT in WWE. Like a lot of other big stars in wrestling, Austin's been a WWF champion, Intercontinental champion, Tag Team champion, King of the Ring, and a 3-time Royal Rumble winner. But the thing that puts Stone Cold on wrestling's Mount Rushmore is his impact beyond the ring. He took a wacky, almost cartoonish product and gave it a serious kick in the butt. Just when kayfabe was fading away, Austin showed up and blurred the lines between reality and fiction. He was a rebel, a badass on a mission to whoop everyone's ass in the World Wrestling Federation. Now, don't get me wrong, D-Generation X, Mick Foley, and The Rock were all key players in the Attitude Era's success. But Stone Cold was the spark that set the whole damn thing on fire. Whether he was refusing to tap out to Bret Hart, screwing with Vince McMahon's fancy Corvette, or drenching the corporation in a beer shower, Stone Cold Steve Austin created pure wrestling magic. But it was a tough road getting there. Steve Austin kicked off his wrestling journey back in 1989, tearing it up in USWA and other smaller territories before making his way to WCW in 1991. He had a decent run there, joining forces with Paulie Dangerously, aka Paul Heyman, in the Dangerous Alliance and forming the Hollywood Blondes tag team with Flying Brian Pillman. Despite Austin's success, WCW bigwig Eric Bischoff failed to see his true value and, can you believe it, actually fired him in 1995 while the guy was recovering from an injury. After leaving WCW, Austin signed up with Paul Heyman and ECW. It was there that Austin started laying the foundation for the legendary Stone Cold character we all know and love. And while his stint in ECW may have been short, it was absolutely vital in preparing him for the big leagues. When Stone Cold Steve Austin made the jump from ECW to the WWF in 1995, he was ready to take the promotion by storm. But oh boy, did he hit a stumbling block right out of the gate. WWF decided to repackage him as the Ringmaster with Ted DiBiase as his manager. Let's just say the gimmick didn't exactly click with the fans. Austin knew he needed a change, so he went straight to Vince McMahon and asked for a character overhaul. They went through a bunch of terrible name suggestions until they finally struck gold. The Ringmaster was gone, and Stone Cold Steve Austin was born. After ditching DiBiase, Austin entered the 1996 King of the Ring tournament and emerged victorious, defeating Jake the Snake Roberts in the finals. But it was what happened next that changed everything. During his coronation promo, Austin delivered a line that would go down in wrestling history. Talk about your Psalms, talk about John 3:16. Austin 3:16 says, "I just whipped your ass." Boom! Instant stardom. The next night on Monday Night Raw, Austin 3:16 signs flooded the arena, and it was clear that the WWF had a major star on their hands. But they needed someone established to give their seal of approval. And boy, did they pick the perfect guy for the job. Bret the Hitman Hart, the man who would give Austin the biggest break of his career. After a hiatus, Hart returned to the WWF and engaged in a legendary feud with Stone Cold that took both men to new heights. Their match at WrestleMania 13 is a masterpiece of storytelling, with blood pouring down Austin's face as he refuses to tap out to Hart's sharpshooter. It's one of the most iconic WrestleMania moments ever. Hart's involvement in Austin's journey added those final touches to his character, proving that Austin could hang with the best in the ring and making him a major draw for the WWF. Austin's feud with the Hart family continued, and at SummerSlam 1997, he faced Owen Hart for the WWF Intercontinental Championship. Unfortunately, a botched piledriver resulted in Austin breaking his neck during the match. Despite the injury, Austin's popularity soared. WWF kept him on television, not competing, but still captivating the fans. It made people rally behind him, yearning to see him back in action. And when he did return at Survivor Series 1997, he defeated Owen Hart to reclaim the Intercontinental Championship. This was a huge step toward making Austin the top guy in the company. But his speedy recovery from such a serious injury would have consequences down the line. For now, though, Austin had held one of the most prestigious titles in wrestling and was well on his way to becoming a megastar. The journey was just getting started. After Survivor Series 97, Stone Cold Steve Austin walked away with two major prizes: the WWF Intercontinental Championship and a brand new arch nemesis, Mr. McMahon. That night's main event of Survivor Series had witnessed Bret Hart getting screwed over by Vince McMahon before heading off to WCW. The fallout from that incident was massive, but the most significant consequence was the tidal wave of anger and hatred directed at McMahon for betraying his top performer. McMahon, being the savvy showman he is, decided to embrace the hate and transformed himself from an enthusiastic play-by-play announcer who happened to own the WWF into the tyrant chairman of the board who abused his power in a relentless pursuit to rid himself of Stone Cold Steve Austin. Their feud is widely regarded as the greatest in wrestling history, and for good reason. Austin's character was all about defying authority, and Mr. McMahon represented the ultimate authority figure. It was a match made in booking heaven, but here's what sets it apart. Vince McMahon wasn't a wrestler. Sure, he stepped into the ring a few times, but the magic of their feud wasn't about whether McMahon could beat Austin fair and square. We all knew he couldn't. It was about the lengths McMahon would go to, the schemes he would hatch to gain the upper hand on Austin. Things escalated to another level when Stone Cold won the 1998 Royal Rumble and set his sights on becoming the WWF champion. The night after the Rumble, McMahon shocked the world by announcing that none other than Mike Tyson would be the special guest enforcer for the main event at WrestleMania, where Austin would face defending champion Shawn Michaels. While McMahon was in the ring with Tyson, making the announcement, Austin crashed the party and got right in Tyson's face. That moment was a game changer. By standing toe-to-toe with the baddest man on the planet and looking every bit as equal, Austin won over mainstream wrestling fans who might not have been aware of what was happening in the WWF. The next day, newspapers across the country were buzzing about Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mike Tyson, and the WWF. At WrestleMania, Austin defeated Shawn Michaels to capture the WWF Championship, officially cementing his status as the top guy in Vince McMahon's promotion. The struggling company had found its new superstar, and signs of life were starting to show. But unfortunately, an old injury resurfaced, putting a halt to all the momentum Stone Cold had been building. After an intense and successful run at the top of the WWF, which included his iconic WrestleMania matches with The Rock, Austin began experiencing neck issues as a result of a botched piledriver he received at SummerSlam 97. Despite the pain, he soldiered on, pushing through the neck problems until they became too severe to ignore. At Survivor Series 1999, Austin had a backstage altercation with Triple H, one of his opponents in a title defense that night. This scuffle led to Austin chasing Triple H to the parking area, where he was accidentally hit by a car before it sped off. It was all part of the storyline to explain Austin's upcoming absence. He needed to undergo neck fusion surgery, which meant he would be out of action for over a year. It was a tough blow for the WWF, as their biggest star had to step away at a time when he and the company were red hot. Austin watched from the sidelines as Triple H and The Rock took over as the focal points of the Attitude Era, and even missed WrestleMania 2000 due to his injury. His triumphant return came at No Mercy 2000 against Rikishi, who was portrayed as the driver of the car that struck Austin. The fans were thrilled to have him back, but the angle with Rikishi felt a bit strange and forced. However, Austin regained his momentum, and at the 2001 Royal Rumble, he earned the right to once again headline WrestleMania against The Rock. WrestleMania 17 is often hailed as the best WrestleMania of all time. It was a spectacular event with incredible matches and storytelling. The main event featured the Texas Rattlesnake facing off against the Brahma Bull. The match concluded with Austin turning heel and aligning himself with Mr. McMahon, which shocked fans and remains one of the most memorable heel turns in WWF history. However, WrestleMania 17 also marked a turning point for both Austin and the WWF. It signaled the end of the Attitude Era and the decline of the WWF's creative brilliance. For Austin, it was his final WrestleMania main event, and just 2 years later, he would retire from wrestling altogether. While Austin was at the pinnacle of the wrestling world immediately after WrestleMania 17, with the accolades of headlining an epic event and holding the prestigious championship, his fairy tale ride came to an end the following night on Monday Night Raw. Austin's heel turn at WrestleMania 17 was a classic moment, but his subsequent run as a heel didn't sit well with the fans. They didn't want to boo Stone Cold, they still wanted to cheer for him while he unleashed his signature whoop-ass on Vince McMahon. Unfortunately, those days were gone. During the summer of 2001, WCW invaded the WWF and joined forces with ECW to form the Alliance. The invasion angle, however, turned out to be one of the most disappointing storylines in wrestling history. It should have been a dream scenario that even the most inept booker couldn't mess up, but somehow it became a convoluted tale that lacked WCW's major stars and saw Austin becoming the leader of the Alliance, kayfabe owned by Shane McMahon and Stephanie McMahon. Fortunately, the Alliance angle finally reached its climax at the 2001 Survivor Series, with the WWF emerging victorious in a traditional 5-man elimination match. After that, Austin returned to his rebellious anti-authority character, and for a brief moment, everything felt right in the wrestling world again. After the Survivor Series disappointment, Chris Jericho defeated Austin to become the undisputed champion instead. Despite chasing the title for a while and being a finalist in the 2002 Royal Rumble, Austin would never capture championship gold again. During this time, Austin started becoming an issue backstage. He was unhappy with the direction of his storyline and frustrated with the overall direction of the company. The breaking point came when he was booked to lose to Brock Lesnar in the first round of the King of the Ring tournament on an episode of Raw. Austin disagreed with giving such a big win to Lesnar, who was a newcomer at the time, without proper build-up. This disagreement led to Austin famously taking his ball and going home. In reality, that moment marked the true end of Austin's in-ring career. He did return to the company in early 2003, but only wrestled a total of 3 matches before retiring. The company had undergone significant changes during his absence, rebranding as WWE and focusing on building new stars. It appeared that there wasn't much room for the aging superstar in the company he had helped save. Austin's last match took place at WrestleMania 19 against his greatest rival from the Attitude Era, The Rock. The Rock emerged victorious that night, finally getting his WrestleMania victory over Stone Cold to conclude their classic rivalry and send Austin into retirement. The following night on Raw, Austin was fired by Eric Bischoff, and the next day he officially retired from professional wrestling. Despite being retired for almost 2 decades, Austin is still one of the most popular figures in wrestling today. His anti-establishment persona, coupled with his rough-around-the-edges demeanor, defied the norms and shattered the mold of what a top star should be, and redefined the WWE along with it. And that's the bottom line.